Hello students, today we are going to discuss the accessibility of the objects. Now these objects can be static or dynamic. Static objects are those objects which are created through the declarative statements by giving the user defined data type followed by object name. This is called instantiation of a class. Now dynamic objects are those objects which are created dynamically at the runtime using the new operator. But the same accessibility rules will apply to both objects whether they are static or dynamic. So you need not to worry about it. Only way is how we access the data members or function members of a static object and dynamic object. Now we discuss the accessibility levels at two different levels. One is a level 1, that is the object level, and second is at the function level. Now what do we access in an object? We access in an object either the data member or a function member. Now once we create an object or once we instantiate a class, memory is allocated to a object, that is it is data members, and we will be also able to access the members of a class with the object. Now how do we refer to the data member of an object or a function member of a class using an object? You have to give the object name, then dot operator followed by the data member name, or you have to give object name dot function name for accessing a function member of an object. Now accessing the data member and the function member of an object at this level is simply giving the name to the data member or a function member. This is where actually the confusion is there in the minds of the students. Once we tell them that we use dot operator to access a data member or a function member, I think this is not the right way to convey to them what we are actually doing. We are actually giving a data member a name. Since the data member does not exist independently and the function member cannot be called independently without using the object name, that is we have to qualify the data member with the object name or the function member also with the object name, and in that case we use dot operator with the object names. Now if we have stored the address of the objects in the pointers, then we can access the data member or the function member of a particular object by using the arrow operator. But here accessing is not the correct word, since the memory access is basically performing read and write operation on a memory. If you are not clear with this, what is a memory access, I have already uploaded a video on what is meant by memory access, and you should go through that video because I have kept these videos in a logical flow. That is, you need to view the previous videos, then only you can understand the next video in the series, otherwise you will be confused. I have created my videos in such a manner that you have to start from video 1 and then only you can reach to this level if you don't know C or C++. If you know, then there is no problem. Okay, I was discussing the access of the object. Now in the object we access two things. One is the data member and the function member. But as I told you, the data member and the function member, they don't exist independently of the class. And once we create an object, memory is allocated to all its data members, and the function members of a particular class become accessible with the object. How do we access them? That I have discussed. That is dot operator we use with the object name. Actually we are giving there a name to a particular data member. Since the data member does not exist independently and data member is created separately for each object once we create what you call automatic data members. Therefore, we need to qualify each data member of a particular object with a unique name. Otherwise, there will be collisions. So, what is a way out of this? That we don't have collisions for the memory location, since each data member is actually a memory location within the block that has been allocated for an object. Now, for the object, the memory is not allocated for one data member, it is allocated for all the members. So actually, instantiation of a class, that is, once an object is created for a particular class, it is basically actually the memory allocation for all its data members. And since memory allocation is done as a block, that is for each data member there is a specific place in that block, and that block is contiguous block. So once we talk about data members, we are basically talking about the variables, okay, even if they are of derived data types, because if they are derived data types, that is arrays and pointers, again arrays are set of variables. Now if they are user defined data types, but again those user defined data types will have members, and those members will be again of primitive data type or what you call derived data type. And ultimately, when we will be accessing the basic member at the primitive level, okay. So we are actually accessing the memory once we access the object in case of data members, and we are actually calling a function once we access a what you call function member. But for naming a data member uniquely for each object, we use a unique object name, because object name should be unique. Two objects cannot have the same name. This applies to the user defined object also, like variables, like that is the naming rules for the objects are same as that of the variables. That is, two objects cannot have a same name if they are declared within the same function, okay. Now two objects can have the same name provided they are declared within two different objects. Now again, global objects, two global objects cannot have same name. So we are actually referring to each member or each location of a memory with a unique name, whether we are using the object or the variables of a primitive data type. So once we access the data member at the object level, it is simply giving a unique name to that memory location within the block that is allocated for an object. So once we allocate memory for object, we are actually allocating different memory locations for different data members within the block of a memory. I have also shown what is the what you call memory representation of the objects and structure variables in the previous lectures, and you can refer to those lectures and you can understand, or you can refer to some book and understand. Without understanding that, it will be very difficult to understand accessibility of the objects, okay. So at the object level, you can simply take it that we give a unique name to the data member or a function member, so that the call is uniquely identified. Because why do we give a unique name to a function member? Because once we call a function with an object, at that time the object becomes the implied argument. If the function call would not have a unique name, then it would have been never known which object is calling a function. Since the object name qualifies the function call, therefore that object becomes the implied argument for that function. You need not to pass that object as an argument, but that object becomes the implied argument. I have already discussed about the implied arguments. That is how the objects become implied arguments once they are used to make a function call, okay. Now we can discuss accessibility of the object at the next level. What is the next level? The next level is the function level. So what is meant by accessibility of the members of an object at a function level? Now we are accessing basically two things. One is the data member and one is a function member. Once we access a data member, the accessibility of a data member at a function level, it means that a particular data member can be input in the body of a particular function in which we are making an access, or it can be output in a body of a particular function where we are trying to display the contents of that data member, or we are able to use that data member in the assignment statements depending on its data types. And suppose if it's int or character or float or double, we can use all of these in the assignment statements and assign them the values, or we can have a right hand expression in case of assignment statements. Whatever is the case, by using assignment statements, we are basically doing read and write operations on the memory. So accessing a data member means using the data member in the input statement, say cin, or in an output statement, say cout in C++, or using an assignment statement, because all these three things are basically memory operations. They are related to memory read and memory write. Okay, so accessing a data member means actually performing the read or write operation on that particular data member, and that operation is done, that is input operation is a basically read operations done on the sorry, input operation is a write operation done on the data member, output operation is the memory read operation done on the data member, and assignment statement is basically the write operation on the data member if it is on the left hand side of the assignment statement, or if it's on the right hand side statement, then it's a read operations on the data member. Now what is meant by accessing a function? Now accessing a function means calling a function, but in order to access a data member or a function member, as I told you, we have to qualify a particular data member with a unique name, and for that we use an object name dot and dot operator. Okay, and for calling a particular function, we have to use a unique name for that function. We use object name dot function name. Why we use a unique name for function? Because once we give the unique name to that function, it is actually the object with which we are calling that becomes the implied argument for that function. Okay, so that it can be easily identified with which object the call has been actually made. On what basis is the accessibility determined at the function level? This could be your question. So this is determined whether you are accessing a data member or a function member in a member function of a particular class, or you are accessing it in a non-member function of a particular class. That is, whether you are accessing the object in the member function of a class from which it has been instantiated, or in a non-member function with which it has got no relation. So what is meant by accessing at the function level? It actually means accessing the object in a member function of the class from which the object has been instantiated, or of which the object is a variable. Okay, this should be clear. Or accessing it in a non-member function, whether that belongs to the other class, or whether that function is a function which does not belong to any class. As I told you, member function is a function which belongs to a particular class. Now member function can be defined within the class or outside the class. Once it is defined within the class, it is bound to the class automatically. Once it is defined outside the class, it is to be bound to the class by using the scope resolution operator and a class name. So whether we are accessing the object in a member function, or we are accessing the object in a non-member function, this is what determines the accessibility at the function level. Now accessing the object in a member function means accessing the object in the member function of a class from which it has been instantiated, and accessing an object in a non-member function means accessing it in any other function which is not the member of the class. That non-member function can be of two types, whether it is a member function of some other class, or it is a a member or it is a function which does not belong to any class. Okay, so if we understand now what is the accessibility at the object level, that is, it does not mean actually accessing a data member, that is performing a memory access. It is related to what we call as a giving a unique name to a data member or a function member. So here the question of access does not arise. It is a misnomer to call it as a accessing the data member or a function member with a dot operator. This is not actually accessing, this is giving a unique name to the data member or to a function member. Now accessing a function member at a function level actually means accessing the data member at the memory level. Now accessing the data member at the memory level means whether you are inputting the data member or displaying a data member, that's output, or using it in a assignment statement. And accessing a function member means actually means what we call as calling a member function. Now what is the accessibility at function level? Actually the accessibility at function level is basically determined whether you are accessing an object to data member or function member in a member function of the class from which the object has been instantiated, or in a non-member function, in a non-member function. Non-member function can now be of two types, whether it is a member function of some other class, okay, or it is a function which is not defined, or which is not defined in the body of any class. We'll see that in the IDE. Okay, now what are the accessibility rules that apply to the member functions or non-member functions? Note, we are now accessing the object, and we are basically accessing the data member and the function members of an object. Accessing a data member and function member of the object means actually accessing the memory. Now what are the access restrictions in this regard? The access restrictions are determined by the access specifier once we discuss at the function level. Now if we have got member functions, all the public, private or protected members can be accessed in a member function, that is the function which belongs to the class from which the object has been instantiated. Accessing a member means accessing both data and function. Accessing the data once again means inputting the data, displaying the data, or using it in an assignment statement, that is a data member. Accessing a function means calling a function. That means you can call a function, any function, whether that is public, private or protected, in the member function of a particular class through the object, okay, or without an object. Once it is a what you call member function, it can directly call other member functions without using the objects, particularly when the object is the implied what you call argument. Okay, now non-member functions, the rule is that only public members, that is only public data and functions, can be accessed at this level. Okay, the private and protected members are not allowed to be accessed at this level. So member functions can access anything, and non-member functions can only access the public part with the object name, public part with the object name, and the private and the protected part is not accessible to them. Okay, now we'll see this later. Let us first clarify this in the IDE. Okay, I will create a class example. Okay, now I will create members of class. Okay, I will create public A. This is a public member now, sorry. Int public A. Okay, to indicate that I have declared A in public section, I create a function, say void on public. Okay, I am not passing the arguments, but later on I will be passing arguments to this function also. Okay, I'll define two members here. Now I'll call this as private A, and I'll call this function private. Okay, now in the protected section I'll again keep two members, that is protected A and function. Let me compile this one to see everything is fine. Okay, this one is fine. I've created one class. Okay, now I create another class. I'll call it as example2. I'll call it as example2. I'll call it as public A2, public 2, private A2, okay. Now the class example has got three members, data members, public A, private A and protected A, and it has got three function members, function public. This is a public word call function defined in the public section. Now this function returns, it does not return anything, and I have written a null body because the body does not contain any statements. Since I am explaining the access rules here, so I'll be focusing on the access rules. Okay, now once I have created the two classes, now let us understand first what are the member functions of example. Function pub, function pry and function pro. They are said to be member functions because they are defined within the class example. Now we can have a member function. Another example I also take. Suppose I will keep another function in the public area that I'll call function pub2 void, but I'll define that outside the class. I have already shown that how to do that. Now this is a function pub2. I am writing a prototype of this function, but I'll be defining this function outside the class. Okay, now how do you do it? You write the definition outside the class. Okay, you don't write a terminate here. Now this function is outside the class, but I have to qualify it with the class name and the using scope resolution operator. I can write here example. So function 2 now belongs to example. Okay, let me compile again. Okay, this is a success. So what are the member functions of the class now? The member functions of the class are function pub, function pub2, function pry and function pro. Okay, now even though function pub2 has been defined outside the class, but still it is a member of the class. Now I hope you understand what are the member functions of the class now. Okay, now member functions of example 2 are function pub2, function pry2 and function pro2. Now the member functions of the class example 2 are non-member functions for the functions of the class example. Okay, so the member functions of the particular class are non-member functions for other class. Okay, since they don't belong to that class, that is all the functions that don't belong to a particular class, that is, they are not defined with the class, or they have been defined outside the class but are not bound to the class, they are all said to be non-member functions. Only those functions which have been defined within the class or have been defined outside but have been bound to the class with the scope resolution operator and the class name, and their prototype has been declared within the class, they are considered to be as member functions. All the other functions other than that are said to be non-member functions. Now what are the non-member functions for class example? So for class example, the non-member functions are function pub2, function pry2, and function pro2. And now main is also non-member function for both class example and example2. Since main does not belong to any class, so it is not the member function of any class. Like main, we can have some other function, say void x, or I can say yes, non-member function. Now this function has not been defined within the body of any class, so this is the non-member function. Okay, so non-member functions of for what you call class example are function pub2 of example2, function pub pry2 of example2, function pro2 of example2, and function non-member, okay, and function main. I hope you understand now what is meant by non-member functions. As I told you, non-member functions are of two types. One is the non-member functions that is the members of some other class, or the functions which don't belong to any class. Okay. Now for class example 2, the non-member functions are those functions which are present in the class example and other functions which have been defined outside it and are not bound to it. Okay, so I hope this is clear now. So this is what with regards what are the member functions and what are the non-member functions. Now once we create an object in a non-member function, first say in this non-member function or in a main, same rules will apply. Now I say I create a object of a class example, class example, I create object O1. Okay, now this object O1 has been declared in the main. The rule is that non-member function can access only the public members of a class. Now what are the public members of a class example? Now the public members of a class example are public A and function public and public 2. Let me call it as function public 1, function public 1 and function public 2. Okay, now these are the public members of this class. Let me try to access them. So I can say, now in order to access I need to first give the name. Okay, how do I give the name of a data member? I say O1 dot pub 2, sorry, pub A equal to 10. Now I am accessing a data member which is a public member. Is this access allowed? Let me compile and see. No problem, there is no error, so this access is allowed. Now a non-member function main is trying to access the public member of a class, but how does it access? It uses the object name for that, for accessing that member, because the member does not exist independently, it is a part of a object. Okay, so the fully qualified name for that is object name dot public A. Okay, now this was accessing the class class member by the non-member function, that is main. Now what is main trying to do? It is accessing this is access at the function level. Now if you want to access the private data, you have to still give the name as o1 dot pri a equal to 10. Now for giving the name, you have to give o1 dot member name, whether it's a function name or function member or a data member. You have to give its name. Without giving the name, you cannot access it. This is accessing at the level 1. That is, you have to first give the name. Now once the name has been given, now we are trying to access at the function level. Now which function it is accessing? Main is accessing. In its body I am trying to assign a value to the data member. Okay. Now if I compile it, you see there will be error. Why? Because private member is not accessible. Okay. So a non-member function, now let me write for here main. Main is a non-member function. Non-member function. Okay. Since it does not belong to any class, and so is this non-member. Okay. If I write same statements within the non-member, same thing will happen. Now let me try to access the protected part. o1 dot pro a. This is the data member of the object o1, but its access specifier is protected. So at the function level, the access specifiers are taken into consideration. Okay. At object level, in order to access, you have to give the name. Okay. But once you give the name, after that you can perform the access on a memory. Okay. Now we are trying to access the protected A. I am trying to assign the 90 value to it. Okay. There is an error. What is the error? Is not accessible. So this is the rule. The non-member function cannot access protected part. Let me put it in the comments. Sorry, private part. Private member it cannot access. Now let me try to see another thing. It cannot access the protected part also. That we have also seen. And now can it access the public part? Yes, it can access. Okay. Now let us try to access a public member. Okay. o1 dot function. Accessing a function means calling a function. Public 1. I am calling this function. Okay. What happens? I compile. There is no error. That means I can access the public functions very well, no problem. Now let me try to access another public function. Now accessing is allowed or not, that will be only known at compilation time. Okay. Once a compiler approves this access, that means it is accessible, and if the compiler does not approve this access, it is not accessible. So accessibility of a object member or a is determined basically at the compilation time and not at the runtime. Once it is accessible at the compilation time, that is, the compiler does not give an error that a particular member is not accessible, and if the compiler does not give an error at execution time, it can be easily accessed because compilation has ruled it out. Okay. So the accessibility rules are to be determined at the time of compilation. Okay. So public can access. As we have seen, we can access a public data. We can access. Now let us try to input this. Cin O1 dot public. Okay. Let us see if it gives an error. No error. So accessible. Cout of O1 dot public A. Now, as I told you, the accessibility at the object level means you are able to give the unique name to the data member or a function by using the object name and a dot operator. There is no what you call question at that level that we are actually making a memory access, and this is where the confusion lies in the mind of a student, because the student thinks that accessing with a dot operator means actually accessing the memory. It's not like that. Dot operator is simply used to give a unique name to the data member or a function member. Once the unique name is given, then that member, whether it's a data member or a function member, can be accessed or not. This will be determined whether you are making an access in a member function or a non-member function. Up to this point, we have tried to access where in a non-member function. Which non-member function we have written these statements? If you see, we have written these statements in the body of main, and we have tried to make these accesses in the body of a main. What have I tried to? I am trying to access a data member. Use it in an assignment statement. Public, no problem. I can input public part, no problem. I can display public part, no problem, because compiler did not report any error. I can access a public function, that is, I can call it with the object name, of course, object name dot function name, and I can access a function member. Of course, I can accessing a function means basically calling a function, and if you see at the architectural level, accessing a function means actually executing the instructions of that particular function. It's a request to the CPU that this function should be executed, and who is making the request? I have discussed in the previous video. It is the caller or a calling function, that is the main, who is making this request. And once this request is being made, actually the memory locations, that is the block of the code, the independent of block of the code is read. That is to be read, and then only it can be executed. Once the instruction can be read, then only it can be executed. And reading the instructions of a function is actually what you call calling a function. It is related to the execution, and execution is related to the reading of the instructions of that function, and that is equal to the memory read operation. That is why we call calling a function as a accessing a function, because we have to the CPU has to execute the instructions of that particular function, and for executing the instructions of that particular function, it has to read that block of code. Now, so far as public part is concerned, we have seen that main is allowed access to it. Once we try to access the private and protected data members of an object, the main could not access it. So a non-member function cannot access the private and protected data. Now, who is determining this, whether the data is private or public or protected? This is determined by the access specifiers that I have used for the example. See here, I have used for public A, I have used the access specifier public. For public function public 1, I have used the access specifier public, and for function public 2, I have used the access specifier public. So these three can be accessed from any non-member function. But whatever data and functions that lie in the private section or the protected section cannot be accessed. Now, your question can be the function that has been defined outside the class but has been bound to the class. Is it a private or protected or a public member of a class? The answer is that see where I have declared the prototype. I have declared the prototype of function pub2 in the public section, so the function pub2 belongs to the public section, so it can be accessed. Okay, that is the non-member function main can access, can make these accesses. Let me copy these accesses here and try to see whether in some other non-member function these accesses can be made or not. I will copy these and I'll paste it here in a non-member function, that is a second non-member function, that's a function non-member that does not belong to any class, and you will see that these once I compile, what will happen is a success. So you can access the public part in this non-member function, that is a non-member. Let us try to remove these comments from private and protected part. You will see we'll get two errors, and that is this non-member function cannot access the private or protected part. Okay, so the rule is that a non-member function cannot access the private or protected part. By private and protected part, I mean the private and protected data member and the function. This is how we achieve data hiding in the C++. That is, a data is hidden within the class by using the access specifiers. So no non-member function in C++ can access the private or protected part of a particular class using an object of that class. Okay, now let us try to call the functions as well, and it will be clear whether we can access them or not. I can say, sorry, without comments I can place it, o1 dot function pry. I'm making a call to this function using the object name, and again I am making a call to this function, second function, using the object name again. Protected function. Okay, now if I make a call, you see we'll get two errors. What are the errors? These two functions are not accessible because one has been declared in the protected section and another has been declared in the private section. If you focus or think on these access specifiers, these and ponder on their meanings, the meaning is public. Public means it is a public property. That is, the public property of a class is accessible to all the non-member functions, but private and protected property it won't allow anybody to touch. Okay, so main is a non-member function. It can access only the public members. It cannot access the protected and the private members, whether they are functions or data that belong to a particular class. Okay, now the second part. Now what let us talk about the this was one non-member function which did not belong to what you call a class. Now let us see another type of non-member function which belongs to some other class, whether it can access it or not. Now in example 2, if I show you, I'll copy these statements. Now O1 is the object of class example. Now for example 2, O1 is the object which does not belong to example 2. It belongs to example. Its data type is example. Now a non-member function public 2 is trying to access the data members and function members of some other class with its object. It won't be allowed access because for object O1, a function pub2 is a non-member function because the function pub2 has been declared in the class whose type is not O1. Okay, now if I compile it, you see there are errors. What are the errors? Function, see you will get errors here. Once again I'll compile. Okay, you can see the errors. Let us see the errors. Function pry is not accessible. Function pro is not accessible. Function pry is not accessible. Function pro is not accessible. Okay, so what we do here, we cannot access the private part in main, we cannot access the protected part in main, and same rule applies to a non-member function which belongs to the some other class. So we have to see the type of the object. Now the type of the data type of the object is example, and the function belongs to some other class. its data type is example2. Okay, so we cannot access the private and the protected part of O1 in the non-member function. Okay, now this applies. Okay, now let us try to write the same statements here in the function public 2. Okay, now I am trying to access here function pub2 is a member function because O1's data type is example, and I am trying to create what you call object of type example in this what you call function. Let us see whether it can access the private and protected part because it's not commented here. If I compile it, you see it will be accessible, no errors will come. So what is the rule for a member function? Member function can access both private, protected and public part. So you can forget about access passwords once you are trying to access the data and function members of an object in a member function whose class type is same as the object's class from which it has been instantiated. In other words, O1 has been instantiated from example, and function pub2 is a member of an example for object O1. Function pub2 is the member function because both of them, function pub2 is the member function because it is a member function, it's a member of the same class from which the object has been declared. Okay, so again I think it's clear now. So the let us uncomment this part also and see whether access is allowed or not. You'll see all the parts can be accessed here, there won't be any errors. So the member function can access all the parts of an object, that is the public part, private part and the protected part. So where is the data hidden? The data is hidden from the non-member functions, not from the member functions. For member functions there is no data hiding. Okay, member functions can access both public part and the protected part, but the non-member functions can access only the public part. The private and protected part is not accessible to them. Okay, it is something at the what you call at a structured programming level where we are not using what you call object-oriented concepts like C, where data hiding is, to some extent is achieved by using the local variables. Once we use actually by using local variables, because local variables can be accessed only within the function in which they have been declared. So they are not visible to other functions. Normally this happens, that is local variables can be accessed in a function in which they have been declared. So this is a sort of data hiding that is taking place in C, but we can overcome that data hiding. How? By passing the parameters by reference or by address or by accessing those parameters using the pointers. So the visibility of local members, that is their hiding, can be unhided. How? By passing them through reference or by passing through the address. Is there some way by which the non-member functions of a particular class could access the private and protected part? Is there some way? We'll see that way also. Let us first again go back to the slides and see what we have actually read. So the accessibility of the objects is at two levels. One is at the object level, that is what are we accessing at the object level? We are accessing a data member and the function member. How we are actually accessing? We are using the data member with the object name, or with the pointers we'll be using arrow operator. It is one and the same. Instead of dot we'll be using an arrow operator. Now once we are accessing what you call data member and function member at the object level, basically memory access is not performed. It is simply giving a unique name to a data member or a function member. But once we could go to the second level of the access, that is where we are actually accessing these object data members and function members. That is where we are doing that particularly inside the body of the function. Now those functions can be member functions or they can be non-member functions. What type of accesses you are performing? On the data member, the accesses we are performing inside the body of a function are whether we are able to input it, output it, or use it in an assignment statement. And for a function member, we are actually calling that function member. Now on what basis is this accessibility determined? This accessibility is basically determined whether we are accessing in a member function or in a non-member function. If we are accessing in a member function, that is we are accessing a data member or a function member with the object name and dot operator in a member function, then there are no accessibility rules apply, everything can be accessed. But if we are accessing it in a non-member function, at that time what happens, there are rules that public and private members cannot be accessed. This we have seen. So member functions, for member functions there is no data hiding. The data hiding only exists for non-member functions. That is, the non-member functions cannot access the private and the protected part of a particular what you call object. Then how do we overcome this? How we make a non-member function capable of accessing the objects, those data members and those functions which have been declared in the private and the protected. Only way to share the resources is what we call as friendship. So we'll be developing a friendship of that particular non-member function with the class, or once we will be accessing the objects within the member functions of some different class, will be making that particular class as a friend of that class. Well, now for friends everything will be shared. So once a particular non-member function has been made as a friend of a class, or particular class has been made as a friend of some other class whose data members and function members are being tried to be accessed, then friendship, in friendship everything is shared. In friendship everything is shared. Let us see that. Let us see how we make friends, non-member function, how we make it as a friend of a particular what you call class, or how do we make a particular class as a friend of particular some other class. Then its member functions can access the data and what you call function members which are private and protected. Okay, let us see that how friendship works. Here we'll be using a keyword what we call friend. Okay, let us see what are the different cases possible. We'll go back to the ID and see it there. Okay, let us see there. Now so far we have seen that main can access only the public part of an object which has been instantiated from the example. So was the case of a non-member function, that is this non-member function, and so was the case with the what you call function pub2. Let us first overcome the limitation of a main. How can main access now these two parts, that is the private and protected part, and there won't be any error? What we do is that we go to the class, and in the public section of this class we say to them, we write the first line of the main. You can copy it from here. This is the first line of the main, and we say we request a particular class now by placing the prototype of a main in the public section of that class. Okay, we place it in a public section and we say to it, this is the prototype of main. We say to the class example, let the main be your friend. We tell him that main is your friend now. He can be friends of you and he can access your public and protected part. So make friends with main. Now once we have done this, let us uncomment this part, these accesses in the main, and try to see if there is an error. Okay, as I told you, the accesses can be only verified at the compile time whether they are valid accesses or not. Okay, now let us compile. There is no error. We can now main is capable of accessing the public private part and the protected part of the class example through its object. Okay, now main is a friend of a class example. Okay, once we make a non-member function as a friend of a particular class, it can access anything from that class. Okay, now let us make this non-member function also as a friend of this class, that is a class example, and see whether it can access. Okay, again we go back to the public section of this class and write the prototype of that function which we want to make as a a friend of a particular class. Again, this is a non-member function. Okay. Now this non-member function becomes a friend. How? By using a keyword before the prototype of a particular function. Okay, now you see there is no problem with that also. So this non-member has been enabled to access the private and before I am not uncommitted, sorry, let me uncommit and first compile and see if there are errors. Now I'm accessing the private A and protected A, and let us see if there are errors. Okay, no errors, no non-member function. This another non-member function has been made capable of accessing the private and protected part of the class. Now let us make the function pub2 of class example2 or as a friend of the class example, so that it can access the private and the protected part of the object which has been instantiated from the example class. Actually, we will be making all these member functions capable of accessing the private and protected part of the class example through its objects. How to do that? We'll make the entire class example2 as a friend of class example. We write again keyword friend and say to the class example, or request the class example to make example2 as its friend. Let us see once we compile what happens. Okay, it's okay. So once we write the statement that example2 is the friend of class example in its body, the example2, that is all the functions of the example2, will be able to access the private and protected part of the objects. Okay, now I am accessing that and there is no error. Okay, let me try to, sorry, it's here. Now I am accessing the private and protected part and there is no error. Okay, now let me place the same set of statements in some other member functions and see if there is an error. Okay, now I have got a function this function pride2. Now I am again accessing the private and protected part of object O1, which is the local variable of private function pride2 of class example2. Let us compile it. What happens? There is no error. Okay, it is fine. So we have seen that a particular class can be made as a friend of a particular class, and all the member functions of that particular class will be able to access the protected and private part if they have got objects of the class of which they have been made friend, and they can access their data members and function members which are present in their private and protected part in addition to the public part. Okay, so this was all about how we make a particular function a friend of a particular class, or how we make a particular class friend of a particular class, and how we can overcome the data hiding by using the concept of friends class or friends functions. The simple way to do that is make a particular function a friend of a particular class by simply writing its prototype and preceding that with the friend keyword, and in the public section, or in order to make a particular class a friend of a particular class, write the class name and proceed that with the friend. Okay, as we did for example 2. I hope you have understood the today's lecture, and this is very interesting and useful once we do programming with the classes and we use objects, and we should be familiar with the rules. As I told you, C++ has got mostly rules, and the basic concepts are almost same as C. Okay, continue watch my videos if you like.